Talking Florida Gators here on Mark Rogers TV, and to do so, we bring in David Waters from Gators Breakdown with Florida in camp now in its third week. David, we're going to stay on the same beaten path because until this thing gets resolved, and it's probably going to take us all the way through August, Florida fans want to know who's the quarterback going to be, and is he going to be any good? The quarterbacks talked a little bit recently, but any news that you're getting out of camp in terms of who's looking good, who's not? Do you have any perspective on where we might be headed in the early stages?
Early stages, we know the battle is between Felipe Franks. It's between Kyle Trask. Those are the two main guys with Kadarius Toney sprinkled in there. It's just the true freshman getting some reps there, but it's the Franks, it's the Trask show right now. And from all indications, it looks like Felipe Franks may have a small margin of a lead over Kyle Trask right now. Starting at about the second week of practice, it was kind of like a switch has been flipped for Felipe Franks. He's a lot more accurate with throws he kind of struggled with before. He has a big arm, Mark, a huge arm. So the downfield passing, that's ideal. He nails that right now. But it's that intermediate route that he was having trouble with. But starting at about last week, you could see those out routes toward the sidelines. He wasn't selling those as much. He was hitting his routes. He was hitting the timing. Everything was, kind of going good. But that's not to say Kyle Trask is not also doing those things. Kyle Trask had a bad practice last week, but that was pretty much the worst practice we've seen him have since he stepped on camp. So kind of the combination of Franks having a really, really good practice and probably one of the best he's had since he's stepped on campus, and Kyle Trask having the worst one that we've seen all in the same practice, that kind of led people to believe, Franks, maybe had leaps and bounds ahead of Trask. But that's not really how it worked out. It had been kind of neck and neck from since the beginning of camp. Definitely what we saw last year. Trask was a little ahead of Franks, even though Franks was the more highly touted recruit. If you go back a year ago, you look in the spring game, Felipe Franks, 3 interceptions on his first 4 attempts, and he says he's learned from that. He was overwhelmed last year, is what he said. So now, he says he's become more of a leader. Even his teammates, Jordan Scarlett, one of the SEC's returning running backs, has even mentioned how Franks has kind of stepped up as a vocal leader. And that's probably what separates the two right now. Is Franks is kind of more outspoken, can lead the guys, more of a field general, I guess you could say. And you could tell he's picking up on that, and the rest of the team is picking up on that. So if you want to, I would still say it's even as far as physical ability go a little bit. I still think Felipe Franks' ceiling is a little higher, but what's really separating them and hearing from other players is the vocal part of Felipe Franks.
So we're probably going to get 2 or 3 scrimmages, including the spring game, and we'll get stats from a couple of those scrimmages, and we'll only really get to see the guys during the spring game, which usually doesn't mean a whole lot. But for this competition, we may be able to derive some results and get a lean for where this is going heading into August at the spring game.
I think so, Mark, and hopefully what this is turning into, it's not like, you and I could go back and probably look at the videos we did from a year ago, and we were saying the same good things about Luke Del Rio. Hopefully this isn't a case of what's leaking out is just positive spin information that Florida can control. What we are basing mostly this off of is the first 10 or 15 minutes of practice that is open, and this is what we see. But that's a lot of basic things that's kind of set up for the offense to have a little bit of success. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully this is a case of a competition between 2 good quarterbacks and not one guy not being able to separate himself from another mediocre quarterback. Hopefully this is a competition that's elevating both guys' games, and Florida gets a good quarterback out of this. So, but you're right, we're not going to see it until fall camp. Even we rewind a year ago, Luke Del Rio goes 10 for 11 for 170-something yards and 2 touchdowns in the spring game, and we think maybe Florida has solved their quarterback situation. We know that wasn't the case. So as good as it's going to be, as good as we hear it sound, as good as it may even look in the spring game, we really won't know until they kick off against Michigan that first week of the season.